Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our offices here in Chicago. What did I usually say? Hey, welcome into our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, alongside me the full CHGO White Sox crew. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can read his work at ALLCITY.com. Man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. I am Sean Anderson. Follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Being produced today by our pal Sarah.
Hi.
And everyone's screaming, and it's great. And it's so loud in here, and I can barely hear my own thoughts. Hit that thumbs up button, and make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel.
It's excuse because it's two former NFL players like the Bears.
Is that why they're able to project their voices
Alex
so loud?
Brown and Lance Briggs over there.
Man, I would love to be in a locker room, wouldn't I?
It's always lively here at CHGO, as you know.
But there's a lot of people here today.
It's true.
And you can hear it.
Our Denver people are here.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about an update in the White Sox managerial search.
So many updates.
Oh my God.
Too many updates to even process.
There needs to be a moratorium on updates almost. I can't keep checking my phone constantly for the next update.
It was honestly fine. I mean, Herb and I were talking about this on Friday. You were out, but we were fine. You know, there wasn't this hoopla. John Heyman had one report, and now it seems like John Heyman can't stop talking about the White Sox. Isn't there a World Series going on?
Seriously, I think I wrote today that, like, what an unexpected volume of White Sox-related tweets in the middle of the World Series, but here it is.
Truly. We will take you up through the updated candidate list right now, and then we will expand on the people that are apparently the four leading candidates.
Something like that. The conversation is certainly focused on these four gentlemen.
So here are the people that have been eliminated. According to Sox Machine, Skip Schumacher has been eliminated. According to, I believe, Jesse Rogers, Clayton McCullough interviewed but is out. Georgia Lombard is out as well, out of the mix, according to John Heyman. Donnie Ecker was interviewed but out, according to Evan Grant. A.J. Ellis withdrew from the job, according to Jesse Rogers. I'm going to call him Jesse Ellis.
Family reasons were cited, yes.
Family reasons. Skip Schumacher is out of the running. I already said that. Cool. And then Daniel Descalso is out of the running also, according to Jesse Rogers. So Schumacher, McCullough, Lombard, Ellis, Ecker, Descalso, Dunzo. They're on the Dunzo list.
Mm-hmm. They are on the Dunzo list.
Here are the people that are reported to be thought of as potential favorites or at least not eliminated. Among known candidates are Phil Nevin, Grady Sizemore, and Will Venable. And the White Sox have interest in Craig Albernaz, the Guardians bench coach. So Albernaz, Venable, Nevin, Sizemore in the mix. Apparently not eliminated is Buck Showalter. We don't know if he's being considered, but he's out there.
Who knows if he's in the mix even, but his name's been mentioned on multiple occasions.
And to throw this out there as well, these people have been reported to maybe be in the mix from John Heyman, and it could just be doing favors to people he knows.
Poop on the wall.
Former players Carlos Beltran and Jason Varitek. Varitek was reported on the 26th, but it said he may interview. So we're going to call that as just very loose. So Buck Showalter, Craig Beltran, Jason Varitek, they're more of shadow figures, where Albernaz, Venable, Sizemore, and Nevin are in the forefront. What have you taken from all of these reports, the eliminated names, the people that still remain? What draws to your attention first? Is it the remaining people?
I think it's the timeline more than anything, right? I think, hey, it's probably going to happen this week, folks. That's me just guessing. I'm not reporting that, but we got the GM meeting starting on Monday down in Texas. Chris Gett's going to be going to those. He's GM. He's going to be one of the GMs at the GM meetings. He's going to be laying the groundwork for his entire offseason. What would you want done before you go on down to the GM meetings? The biggest item on your to-do list, hiring a manager, right? So that, I have to imagine, is going to be out of the way by the time the GM meetings start. There are only a few days, right, that between now and then, in which there will not be a World Series game going on. It is of etiquette, as we discussed last week, guys, that you make these announcements or have these press conferences typically on the off days of the World Series to let the World Series have the baseball stage all to itself. Now, I think rarely would a managerial hiring for a team, that needs a new manager because of how poorly their record was, overshadow a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. But, there are years in which the Red Sox might need a new manager, or, some Hall of Famer rides into the sunset and they need to replace him. So I get why that etiquette exists. I don't think the White Sox hiring one of those four guys or anybody off that board is going to, knock Dodgers-Yankees off the back page, so to speak. But there you go. So I'm guessing it's coming this week. And I think the timeline of us finally hearing kind of about that winnowing down. Obviously, it's been a couple weeks since James over at Sox Machine said that list was getting smaller behind the scenes, but now in front of the scenes, it is here getting smaller and quickly as all this basically has happened over the last few days. So that's the big takeaway for me is if the conversation is focusing on those four guys, maybe that Chris Getz has identified a partner in one of those four guys. I know Herb, you and Sean both have talked about being excited at the idea of Will Venable. Mm-hmm. I think he's a guy who has been speculated to kind of be the manager in waiting down there in Texas with Bruce Bochy, a Hall of Famer, maybe nearing the end of his career. Dusty Baker was a Hall of Famer. We saw Joe Espada interview for all those jobs over the years and never budged, right? And then Dusty Baker left, and Joe Espada got to take over the Astros. So I think that folks are speculating that a similar situation could be happening in Texas's other MLB city, in Dallas. But maybe Chris Getz, who has been able to lure a bunch of other former players, right, former major leaguers, to be part of the brain trust here with the White Sox, has shown Will Venable kind of the way he wants to run an organization. I think another thing that jumps out from all of this is as we hear about the names that have been knocked off the list, right? Yep. There were a lot of those guys who interested, whether it was me as an observer or fans or folks like you guys as fans, because they had experience that the White Sox didn't have. They represented a different way of doing things just by their sheer job title or their responsibilities, right? Here's Chris Getz either considering or interviewing these people. We don't know exactly what, with each individual one, and maybe getting that insight. You know what I mean? Even if, Will Venable looks great over here or Phil Nevin looks great over here, I do want to talk to Clayton McCullough to figure out how the Dodgers do things. I do want to talk to Donnie Ecker to see what it's like to have that mindset around an offensive coordinator in baseball. I do want to talk to Danny Lehman about being a communication coach or a game planning coach. So I think some of those things, maybe Chris Getz did take advantage of this opportunity. And then obviously we've got the new name in Craig Albernaz from the Guardians. Was a longtime Rays guy too, and you wonder if that level of experience being in that organization that does so much with so little could be of benefit on the South Side.
Just to jump in on Albernaz and then Herb, I'll let you talk. Albernaz was a catcher when he was a player with the Rays, was teammates with Stephen Vogt when Vogt was in the Rays minor league. He was a Rays minor leaguer, and then I don't think ever made it with the Rays. Mm-hmm. So that's always fun, when a guy bounces around. But then he was with the Giants, was the bullpen and catcher coach with the Giants from 2011 to 2023, and then
2020 to 2023.
Yeah, 2020 to 2023, and then now has been the bench coach with the Guardians under Vogt for the past year. Just interesting, a guy that has had literally his finger in every part of baseball. Right, he's been behind the plate, he's been in the bullpen. Obviously behind the bench as well. Like he's really done it all.
Was a minor league field coordinator in that Tampa system, managed a few of their affiliates. I believe won at least one or maybe two championships down there.
60% winning percentage.
Pretty good.
I'll take that on the South Side.
And then also you mentioned his time in San Francisco. Brian Bannister there at the same time. That connection's been made multiple times, right? Donnie Ecker was also a Giants guy when Bannister was there as well. Really gives you an insight into maybe how big of a role Brian Bannister is playing in this manager search and really everything that has to do with the White Sox and in Chris Getz's front office.
And what you were talking about earlier, Vinny, where I think it is a positive, and like I said, I'm trying to project positivity for the Chris Getz era because we've been negative this whole year, and hopefully a positive outlook for most fans would be good for the atmosphere. So I'm thinking that you're interviewing McCullough and he's eliminated from the search. That to me sounds like there's a better guy out there that they're already down the road with. Maybe it is Will Venable, who is also reportedly one of the final people in Miami. along with Alvarez. This is reported by Miami. Was it Craig Mish?
Craig Mish said the Miami Marlins are down to 2 finalists for their manager, Guardians bench coach Alvarez and Rangers associate manager Venable. My intel says that Alvarez and Venable are finalists. I'm personally not aware of any others. That's being said, there's always potential for another candidate that I'm not aware of. And it wouldn't surprise me if a new manager is named on a day the World Series is played. At least so. There could be before the World Series even wraps up for at least the Marlins.
So I'm very positive about that. That's a good thing that Chris Getz is down the road, maybe with these other people. And so it's been better than I thought to this point that the White Sox would end up with a quality person. If it's not Venable, which would be my number one choice, reading up on Alvarez, and you guys just talked about it, you're with the Rays system. Then you're with the San Francisco Giants. And then you go to the Guardians. That's exactly who you want to be. You want to either be the Rays or the Guardians. If you're Jerry, people who don't spend that much money, every time you see their team, they're developing a new talent. They don't keep a lot of superstars on their team, but when they do, they usually try to lock those people up. And if they can't, they trade them for somebody else, and they're going to be better than that team that had them and they traded for. So I'm all about Alvarez if Venable is not available. I just love how it's come to this where you got 2 qualified guys at the top of the list and that you're looking to zero down for it on the White Sox. I couldn't have been happier. Now, if it ends up being Phil Nevin, be a big-time disappointment for me. Huge disappointment. And if it ends up Grady Sizemore, I think that would be kind of like you're seeing the mountaintop and then they're like, we're not going up there. You could just watch it. But we're still in this valley right now because the same thing is going to happen. Like I said, though, at the end of the day, if it just ends up to be Grady Sizemore after a thorough search, I'll reluctantly like it. But I will say that you missed out on all those other people. But Will Venable kind of strikes me weird. As Vinny was talking about, he's perceived to be the manager in waiting. Is he doing the thing like Vinny's asking the White Sox to do where he's just casting his net to see what's out there, because he already knows he has this Rangers job in his back pocket whenever Bruce Bochy leaves, just to say, hey, let me go do these interviews, see what's out there, and if it's not for me, it's not for me. I got this job already locked up with the Rangers, and there's no harm, no foul for me. That's what I would be thinking of Will Venable, because why would you leave a nice job with the Rangers, who just won the World Series last year, to come to 2 historically bad franchises in the White Sox or the Marlins? I know one of 30 jobs. I got it. But also, you got one. You got a job that, I don't know if it's promised to you, but it's understood through Major League Baseball that you're probably going to do that. That's why you turned down the Guardians. That's why you turned down the Mets interviews.
Yeah, well, Evan Grant reported that Bruce Bochy has a contract until 2025, and that it's not even certain that Bochy would walk away. So maybe the thought is that Venable thinks Bochy is just going to be there longer and he wants to start his career. And plus, if Venable is able to be wooed from such a spot from the Rangers, that is going to be such a feather in the cap, because we still put feathers in the cap in this day for Chris Getz.
I think Chris Getz going to walk around like wearing the Robin Hood hat next year?
Should.
He better.
He better. I think it'd be stupid not to. I think all of you should be still wearing media hats. The fact that you can't.
Little press card?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing? Yeah, I'm the press. Wearing a suit on this 90-degree day.
You have a perfect Halloween outfit every single year. You just have to use that hat every single October 31st. We'll take a break. I do just want to say, at least to that, I think it would just be Bochy is no longer thought of as leaving.
Okay.
Venable thinks that it's his time to be a manager, and maybe he does like the fact that he's working with a fellow player. Mm-hmm. We talk a ton about how Chris Young was the only other former player who was a GM. Getz follows that mold, and maybe that will be something that Venable appreciates. We got to take a break. Want to let you know about our friends over at Chevy. Say prost to bigger and better savings on your next vehicle, because Cartoberfest is going on now at Ray Chevrolet. Yeah. Head in today to shop their huge savings of new Chevy models at new low prices. Right now, take $3,000 up to $12,000. $3,000 to $2,000 wouldn't make any sense, just, progressively. Take $3,000 to $12,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or cruise through your fall your own way and shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of the Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this October at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about now, you can expect to see the very same when you shop Ray Chevy in-store or online. Shop Cartoberfest all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. A couple weekends ago, my fiance and I went to Back to the Future the Musical, and also a couple weekends ago, we went to see Anderson .Paak. And of course, we purchased these things on Game Time because I know that we're going to get the lowest price guarantee with their Game Time guarantee, which states if you find a lower price in the section or row, Game Time will send you 110% of that difference. Just like I got when I went to Atlanta a couple years ago. Other features I love of Game Time is the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And also you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you go, so you know what you're getting before you buy. And with Game Time's ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use the code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time. Woo. Yeah.
Woo.
I didn't really have the voice to do that one.
I did want to bring up something Herb said.
Okay.
I wanted to react to something Herb said too. And I don't think that this opinion is unique among, I wouldn't even say Sox fans, baseball fans in general, right? When you hear your team considering for a manager a guy who has had a big league manager job before and not won, right? I think that folks move on from him very quickly. You brought it up in regards to Phil Nevin, who managed a admittedly bad Angels team. That team got Joe Madden fired. That team did not win. That team's legacy is being remarkably underachieving while having two of the best players in the history of the game, right?
Correct.
Phil Nevin couldn't win with them. Guess what? So could not a lot of other people. I think Phil Nevin has, though, a similar background to a lot of candidates that you would be excited about. Like if Phil Nevin was a bench coach who had never managed the Angels, you'd think a lot differently about him, right? Probably. I mean, this is a guy who was a minor league manager for a very long time, a successful one at that, in good organizations, and to have that resume without the topper of, oh yeah, I managed a bad Angels team for a year and a half or whatever it ended up being, that makes it ring a lot differently. And so, I mean, I think if Sox fans are thinking, oh, it's got to be Venable because it can't be Phil Nevin who is bad at managing that one time. Was he? Does anybody really know? You know what I mean? Like that Angels team wasn't good. So I think that giving Phil Nevin a chance, because we're here talking about Craig Albarnaz as a successful minor league manager for a good organization, right? Like Phil Nevin has that too on his resume, and those experiences might be very valuable to a rebuilding team that is trying to bring along young guys. Will Venable never coached or managed in the minor leagues. And while I'm not saying that's a knock, I'm saying you could consider it a plus for a couple of the other guys, Phil Nevin included.
You talked about knowing stuff. Herb, I know something that Vinny doesn't listen to our shows when he's not there, because this was our entire show on Friday. I was basically like...
Some of us were in Wisconsin on a bachelor party, Sean. I'm just going to let you know.
Were you? Yeah, you don't have a radio and a car.
I mean, we don't come on the radio, Tom.
Well, I know, but you could, plug an aux in. The whole talk, though, was like a lot of reaction on Friday was like, oh, what is up with Nevin? And I brought up all these things. Like, this is Joe Madden's bench coach. This is a guy that was with the Yankees who are super analytic forward. Yeah. This is a guy that's a minor league manager and a former player. He helped his son get to the major leagues. And a lot of the talk, I'm not trying to be funny here. A lot of the talk is the way he looks. He looks grumpy. He looks like he is a little upset all the time. I don't think it's the fact that you can't find a lot of photos of Phil Nevin smiling that people really don't like the idea of Phil Nevin. There's also apparently a little bit of a Tony connection. Apparently, I've now seen.
Is there?
Might have
I
played
don't
for him.
know.
I don't know.
I haven't thought of any Tony connection, but apparently there's a Tony connection. I don't know. When was the last time Tony was with the Angels?
Oh,
it was recent.
yeah. It was his job before he came to the White Sox.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, but like, did he help pick did he help pick Madden?
The coaching staff, well, but also
Yeah,
like
oh,
the
no, he
coaches
picked
in
Joe
general,
Madden.
right? Yeah. I mean, he was an advisor just like he is currently with the White Sox there. So
Yeah, I mean,
don't believe he was like running it like he was the D-backs is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
he hired as a senior advisor in 2019, and then he was hired 2021?
Who, Madden?
No, Tony is the so when was Madden hired?
Tony was the Sox manager in 2020. 2021.
Yeah, and then as a manager 2020. Okay, for Madden. So, I mean, like, I guess Tony was a part of that
they
choice.
were in the Angels at the same time.
I find that to be really thin. If Phil Nevin is picked, I don't think it is because it's Tony's guy. I don't think it's my favorite choice. I don't think Grady's my favorite choice, but I think Nevin is possible mainly because let's say the Miami Marlins go with Albernaz, and apparently they're going to announce it during a day that the World Series is going to be played.
They're going to announce it during the 7th inning stretch.
Hell yes. Will Venable is going to sing the 7th inning stretch.
At Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium. And then what if Albernaz goes to Miami and Venable wants to stay in Texas? Then we're just left with Nevin and Sizemore, at least with the reported names left. So, like, out of Nevin and Sizemore, I could just see Sizemore being a bench coach for Nevin. Like, I could just see a way where they get Nevin and Sizemore on the 2025 staff. I think Nevin would be a fine choice. And I think it's really tough to get excited about 2025 White Sox baseball, regardless
yeah.
of the manager. I think Venable is the only name that would get me excited. And I think that would just be truly a great get for Chris Getz. But even at the end of the day, he hasn't been a manager, and he was in the front office with Thed and Gio and Thed.
Thed and Gio.
He was hired in October of 2017, and then I believe he became the first base coach in November of 2017. So I think the timeline of him being in the front office with Thed was 10 weeks. Shout out to BZ for that. I think it was only 10 weeks of Will Venable being in the front office. So, like, he's been a coach for a long time here, since 2017. I think he does have experience.
Absolutely.
Obviously, in a major league bench, but I don't know, like, why is it Will Venable as the guy? He's got a really shiny resume.
And you know what? We might find out, though. I mean, like, if Will Venable gets the job, right? Like, typically these guys do a good job of winning the press conference. Mm-hmm. Pedro Grifol did it, right? I mean, like, I think the idea is, like, if Will Venable gets the job, I think White Sox fans will get a glimpse into why he got the job through his personality and through, you know what I mean? They'll have something to get excited about. And I would argue that there would be a degree of that with whoever they hire, be it Phil Nevin or Albernaz or anyone else. I think that those introductory press conferences often do a good job of exciting people and giving you a glimpse into what things could be like, not always what they end up being like. But and I think you could see folks being like, oh, that's the reason they picked this guy very quickly after that hire is made.
And shout out to the chat giving us a little bit more clarity on Nevin and Tony's connection. Drake, Jex, Galaxy, TBH, and Dan all saying Nevin was AAA manager for Arizona when Tony and Dave Stewart were in the front office, was a manager league affiliate, and then also Tony interviewed him for the manager job there in Arizona. So there is a little bit of a Tony connection. So thank you for that clarification. Why is Grady still on the list, though?
Like, just a fallback. Well, they like him too, right?
Well, like, what's the fallback? Like, do they like him more than Nevin?
No, I'm thinking that
I'm just
probably
trying to think logically.
out of if you're talking about the 4 people being finalists or the reported people who are still considered, I would think the White Sox would have Grady as their 4th, but still like him. You know what I mean? Like,
but in what world is Phil Nevin saying no? In what world is?
Well, but again, here's the thing: folks, yourself included, and this isn't a bad thing. This is just how it works. You want to see the horse race, right? You want to see the standings. You want to see who's leading the managerial hunt right now. I'm not sure with the way that things are reported, or certainly the way that things have been reported right now, that's exactly the case, right? I mean, and Sean, you did a good job of kind of poking fun at the fact that has been the case at the start of the show, being like, we can't call them finalists, but we can call them the people who haven't been eliminated yet, reportedly. Like, but that's true. And I think that maybe you haven't heard that Grady Sizemore is out of it yet because Grady Sizemore still works over there, right? I mean, it's not like you're going to call up Grady Sizemore and be like, hey, you what you talk to the White Sox, what they say is like, well, I work for the White Sox. You know what I mean? Like he might be still under consideration. There might be other people we haven't even heard about being under consideration.
Craig came out of nowhere.
Right. We just heard about him today, but also hearing about him today or yesterday doesn't mean that they haven't been thinking about him this whole time. So I think we have an incomplete puzzle of how it worked or how it's working at the moment kind of thing. I think that narrowing a group of names down to 4 in a public setting is a good thing because it gives us a chance to focus on guys who actually, have a shot at getting the gig. But don't think that it's easy for us or anybody, you listeners included, to put them in order, to put them in a list of how likely they are to land this job versus each other, because we don't have that kind of insight. And so I think we can talk about the guys who we know are reportedly still under consideration or reportedly haven't been eliminated, to use the language you were using earlier. But, I don't know if we can say Venable's at the top over Nevin, who's over Sizemore. It's just they're all in the pot together. And while I'm sure Chris Getz has a list like that, we don't know what it is. And so it's hard for us to guess.
I think you're asking about Will Venable, like, why is he so popular? Why would you be the guy? It's just because all the people who love him swear by him. I mean, you think about Theo Epstein. He's a Hall of Fame front office guy. Could not wait to have him as a special assistant, whatever short period of time it was.
I mean, he became the first base coach in the same organization, so it's not like,
but he had he was the guy.
Right. Like, I mean, they're still highly in favor.
Exactly.
To your point.
Yeah, and Jed had him when he was a Padres general manager. He went to Boston. Those people are relatively smart. Managed, I think, a couple games when Joey or Alex had to sit out with COVID. And then he goes to another place where Chris Young, his general manager, he's Ivy League educated himself, and he wants him on his staff. Bruce Bochy, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, all the people who you think and revere as far as good, smart baseball minds, revere this guy. That you can do much worse than Will Venable. Like, if out of this whole coaching search, if they would have told me the White Sox would have had a chance to get Will Venable, I'd be like, maybe. Like, even the fact that you're in this whole atmosphere right now with Will Venable tells me that Chris Getz is doing his search right. Now, if he can land this guy, will be a coup, an absolute coup for the White Sox to get that guy.
And that's why it's just like, we're talking about bench coaches here. It's tough to really, I think Nick Morowski put it, it's just like, it's so surprising to know the knowledge of everyone, knowing all these bench coaches and how good they are. Like, I don't know how this is. I thought Pedro Grifol was going to be great. And I guess he had the, stamp of approval from Eduardo Perez, and that was enough for me. Hey,
we learned our lesson.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll learn our lesson. I mean, Venable does sound great. I'm just trying to look at all the other, the other side of it. Like, what could be the negatives of Venable that if he comes here, we could be like, oh, that's why, he Bruce Bochy was still the manager.
Theoretically learning the job on the fly, even though he's done it for 6 games, and he's on the side of Bruce Bochy for the last couple of years. I think that he's absorbed something and learning how to manage a game. So, I mean,
everything I know about Will Venable, I don't think he's stupid.
No, he's very smart. Very baseball smart and very smart.
He's a
book smart.
He's a Princeton man.
Oh my God!
Isn't it like Ivy League? You go to an Ivy League school and you're a man. You're a Princeton man. You're a Harvard man. Otherwise, you're just a Mizzou guy like me. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like,
how is it talking Mizzou guy to Rick Hahn Harvard guy? He was Harvard, right?
Yeah, Harvard lawyer.
Yeah.
Michigan, I think under, and then Northwestern something.
Yeah. I think Will Venable will talk in a funny accent.
Like the continental accent, I went to Princeton, that kind of thing. Yeah,
my daddy built this library,
and I have to say Missouri.
My general manager I don't know where Chris Young went, but he went to Ivy League school. I'm sure he went to Princeton himself. And he goes to sees Chris Getz Michigan, private university, our public university.
Tut.
You poors.
Chris Young also Princeton. All right, let's take a break.
Smarts.
We will reset this, and we'll get you more on the White Sox managerial search. Vinny, tell us about Lana Kugel.
Well, as I mentioned moments ago, I was in Wisconsin this weekend, and a little brisk in the evening. Starting to get fall-y, I don't even want to think about that word winter. But weather temps are going down, but guess what? You know me. I never want to give up a summer state of mind. I always got to keep it summery, up here, and I can keep it summery in my beer bottle and can as well with a Line and Kugel Summer Shandy, which is available year-round. It used to be seasonal, no longer seasonal. You can get it at the Jewel. You can get it any time of year because it's so tasty that it's perfect any time of year, even when it isn't the summer. Listen, I love Line and Kugels, and I love those summertime events. Even though it's fall and the leaves are turning and the temperature's plummeting, I still want to go out and grill. Still want to have a summer shandy while I go out and grill. Still want to go on a tailgate, have a summer shandy. Want to go to a picnic, have a summer shandy. And even when the temps get too cold to be outside, just go down to the bar, a little local watering hole, have yourself a summer shandy. And you know what? Even if you're like, all right, enough with the summer. Maybe I like winter. Maybe I like fall. Well, there's a beer for you. There's a Line and Kugel's beer for you. You can have yourself an Oktoberfest, which is kicking around now because it's October.
I can kick a Berry Weiss right now.
You could. You could have a Berry Weiss. You could have a Honey Weiss. You could have a Lakeside Cherry or a Sunset Wheat. You could do it all. You could even go up to Wisconsin like I did and get yourself a Liney's, a Ridge. You don't have to just pick one. So, folks, flavor every moment with Line and Kugels. It is the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to liney.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO. Or pick up Line and Kugels pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Line and Kugels, flavor the moment, celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Line and Kugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes. We want to let you know, too, about Chicago Sports Network. We are sponsored by Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core. And they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our 78 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit CHSN.com for more information on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long. The one thing that I did find about Will Venable, there was a comment all the way at the top. Sarah, if you want to go there. David said, where's Venable from? Because I think we need a bilingual coach so he can communicate with Caribbean players, which is a whole thing to unpack there. He's from California, and I don't think he's bilingual. So just a heads up there. And the only reason why I know this is because of this article from Jesse Rogers. Now, this isn't new, all right? This is old. San Diego Padres outfielder Will Venable says the Chicago Cubs made a great hire in choosing former Padres bench coach Rick Renteria as their next manager. He's a guy that knows the game as much as anyone I've been around. He's got a fire in him that you love having in the clubhouse. More than anything, he's a teacher. He wants you to learn the game. He wants you to play the game the right way. Venable has been with the Padres since 2008. The same year Renteria was promoted to Major League Coach. In 2011, Renteria was named bench coach of the Padres. Quote, sometimes it means he has to be tough on you, but those are things he's willing to do for you and the team. He's such a great leader.
He's a Ricky disciple.
Bring him back. We can have like senior bench coach in Ricky Renteria and then junior bench coach in Grady Sizemore. It'd be great. We can just make up more positions. It'll be awesome. I think there was a question too about hitting coaches or directors of hitting real quick.
Before we get to that, about him being bilingual, he might be because his dad played in Japan and the Dominican Republic and will travel along with them.
Might be trilingual.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, as a child, he probably, and if anything, he knows at least baseball Spanish, so he can communicate to the players that way.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
At the minimum.
I Googled Will Venable bilingual and nothing popped up besides the Ricky Renteria article, which was a joy to read. At least to somebody, though, asking about director of hitting, the Marlins, a little news with them. Joe, and a name I'm not going to try to pronounce, Joe will be the new director of hitting coach. Migliaccio. Megalaccio?
Sure, that's right.
Megalaccio.
That works.
I have to channel my inner Italian to probably say it the right way.
Putting some musica in it.
Right. He will be the new director of hitting. So this is somebody that will oversee the all levels of hitting for the majors. Will also still hire a hitting coach. The Marlins will still hire a hitting coach for the MLB staff. He was most recently the Yankees hitting coordinator. I believe there's also a connection between him and Peter Bendix, the Rays the former Rays front office staffer, now Marlins general manager. So, I mean, this is a prearranged marriage in a way, but this is also kind of similar to Brian Bannister being there. I mean, like if Will Venable is hired, probably knows of Brian Bannister, but like He's going to have to, be able to work with Brian Bannister. Do you think that Getz will wait for the managerial spot to be filled before hiring a director of hitting? Do we think that director of hitting is still of importance for them?
Yeah, a couple things. I think that it's a front office position, and so I think that necessarily doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like Brian Bannister is not going to be on
the bench,
whoever's coaching staff. Yeah. He's going to be in the front office as the organization's pitching czar. So while obviously you want him to get along with the manager and the communication levels to be there, I look at Brian Bannister as part of the front office as a position that not only has an impact on the major league team, but on all the minor league teams as well. And I think a hitting version of that, if that should be where the White Sox decide to go, would be similar. So I don't think you necessarily need the stamp of approval, let's say, of the manager in order to make that hire. Obviously, the Marlins didn't. They decided to bring him in, or that guy in as a front office guy. What I will say is don't necessarily expect that has to be a position. I think Chris Getz was asked about this multiple times last year. Hey, are you going to go out and find the Brian Bannister for your hitting side? Because, boy, they need it, right? They need something to turn around that offense. But it doesn't necessarily have to be one guy with that exact title. And I think that part of the to-do, if you want to talk about the to-do list, the thing that they were going to do in that area this offseason was find out if it needs to be one guy or how can they get the same impact in the organization, whether it's one guy or not. So I think, you might see them hire a director of hitting, or you might see them just apply those principles to various roles throughout the organization. We'll see where they land on that. But to answer your first question, I don't believe it is incumbent on having the manager in place first.
I'm glad you said that because that was so infuriating when I saw that. I was like, goodness gracious, you're going to hire a guy on the bench before you even hire the bench boss? And I'm glad you cleared that up, Vinny, because that is such like a White Sox move where they did hire a guy in Charlie Montoyo to be on Pedro's staff and really didn't have a connection there. And I hope that in the future, it's just whoever the manager is, that's your staff. Even if it's not Marcus Timms, even if it's not Grady Sizemore. But I would love to keep Grady because they love Grady. Might as well have some harmony.
Is that another former major league outfielder who's
Harmony? Yeah. I think she works on Midnights at
Jesus. Yeah. Like
on the pole.
I just want to see who Will Venable will bring in. Will it be like Lastings Millage? Like who are the guys that we can like really dust off and bring out?
That's former White Sox.
Former White Sox.
Former White Sox.
Yeah, for sure. Short period.
We got Grady Sizemore. I was surprised to see Grady pop up. I mean, the White Sox front office is full of it. Brian Bannister, Josh Barfield. I would love to see what guys Will Venable knows to bring into the staff. That would be a fun game to play.
Theoretically, even though he didn't play baseball, Will Venable's brother, Winston, played for the Bears.
It's true.
He can just slide as his bench coach. Lance played with him. We can ask him. Yeah. It was only 1 year.
Hey, maybe through Wilson we can get Will's number.
Winston, yes.
Winston, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, just learned his name. Winston. Maybe through Winston we can get Will's phone number and ask if he's bilingual.
Yeah. Or just ask Winston, are you bilingual?
That's true. I mean, hey.
I'm assuming your brother is too.
Yeah. Did Winston go to Princeton?
Oh, that rhymes.
It is.
There you go.
I mean, no, he went to Boise State.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more timeline. You talked timeline.
Princeton of Idaho.
Do you think it will be this week? Because we talked about the conflicts with the GM meetings, right? GM meetings on November 5th. There is the Monday the 4th where no baseball will be played. Do they do this on Friday of this week? When do we think this happens? This week, next week?
I think it happens this week. I think it happens before Chris leaves for the GM meeting, so I think that happens before a week from right now.
Thursday's the open day, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I think Thursday they'll do it.
Now, there could be no game Wednesday or Friday if the Dodgers win tonight and tomorrow, but yeah.
Yeah, and also, Herb, I'm sorry. On Friday we discussed, hey, who do we think is going to win the World Series? I took the Yankees. Herb took the Dodgers. I mainly took the Yankees because of starting pitching. And, man, they had their two best starting pitchers and lost both those games. So I think they're screwed. So
they're going back to the boogie now.
They got to win 4 out of the next 6.
They're the Yankees. They got 3 home
They're
games.
playing the Dodgers.
I got it.
Why is this flipping? Didn't you pick the Dodgers?
What
is happening?
I'm picking the Dodgers because I root against them in each of the series, and they're still the Dodgers. I'm rooting for the Yankees to win, but yeah, I think the Dodgers are the superior team.
Also, they need to win 4 out of the next 5. I don't believe there will be a game 8.
That's a good point, Vinny. That's a good, apt point.
And if there was and they only won 4, then it'd be tied, and who knows what would happen.
I'm struggling to read and do math.
That Aaron Judge thing. Whew, friends.
It's been bad.
What happened to that man?
Also, is that fake that Freddie Freeman homered at 8:37 and Kirk Gibson's homer was at 8:37?
Ooh, that's cool if that's true.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I feel like it's made up. I feel like there's no way anyone knew the exact time.
Two hobbled guys.
Kirk Gibson hit that homer.
Hitting
it's
home
probably
runs
easy to do the math
for winners.
when the game ended.
Amazing.
But, yeah, I don't know. That literally both hobbled.
Both off Eckersley.
Both made their fame off other teams. Kirk Gibson, I guess, is more of a
tiger,
right?
Yeah.
You know, you're wearing the Freddie Freeman hat right now.
Damn right.
So yeah. Anyways, it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds. The website I was using has now updated it to say that it appears that those are the 4 finalists. That's the wording that Chuck gave, and then Ryan McGuffey also confirming that. It seems like those are the 4 finalists.
I mean, that's who we're talking about.
I know.
That's what I
have
keep
we eliminated
saying.
Buck Showalter? Can I take a deep breath? Do we think it will be Buck Showalter?
Let me ask you: what would your ranking be between Buck Showalter and Phil Nevin?
Oh yeah. So number 1, Venable. I think that's been pretty clear.
Yeah.
Albernaz or Lehman. I don't know if Danny Lehman, bench coach of the Dodgers,
has not been reported to be eliminated.
I think those guys are probably in the same boat. Like, there's nothing that's like, oh yeah, Craig Albernaz. Like, it's not definitely a sexy name. Doesn't roll off the tongue.
Teams,
but like good teams, right? I mean, guys that have experience. Like they're fine hires. I think those would be fine hires. Venable's the home run. Nevin and Grady, I would have a lot of questions about. It is a team that lost 121 games, though. Like, who really does want to come into this organization to manage it? Maybe Nevin sees this as his last chance to be a manager, so I understand why he would take it. Then it's eating a bowl of nails, and then it's Buck Showalter.
I mean, theoretically, Buck, after he left the Diamondbacks, they won a championship. After he left the Yankees, won a championship.
Oh, yeah? This is your thoughts?
Yeah. Baltimore. After he left Baltimore, they didn't win a championship, but eventually got to the playoffs with the next manager. And the Mets got to the NLCS after Buck.
I think
Buck Showalter is going to be the manager for 20 years.
So theoretically, fire him after 4 years. White Sox are on their way.
I'd say this. I think Buck Showalter would probably be much more entertaining than you're thinking. You know what I mean? A guy who's good with the media has, he would provide some entertainment value, I think, in terms of, he said a funny thing tonight. Kind of, I mean, like,
always on MLB
hire me.
Network.
I'll say funny things.
Like MLB Network. He used to be a guy there. Will be always on MLB
right.
Network.
I think you would find him charming. You know what I mean? But in terms of how does he mesh with this job, I don't see that.
Yeah,
I don't see it. Right.
Grady Sizemore is charming, and he doesn't have to say anything. So, I mean, we'll just leave it at that.
But Buck's much more practiced. He's probably got some jokes.
He definitely has some jokes. He definitely's got some canned jokes. That's absolutely for sure. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm saying don't go around eating nails. That's what I'm trying to get.
I'm not going to. I don't think Buck Showalter is going to be the manager, and I don't think I have to eat nails. And I'm not going to do it, too. If Buck Showalter is named manager, this is not me saying I'm eating a bowl of nails. Cut to me eating a bowl of nails in a week.
Don't do that.
Still not good.
I guess the Nevin thing, like, I don't really want to start a narrative that, like, oh, this is Tony or Jerry's hire, or this is Chris Getz being, like, worked around. Like, it seems like Chris Getz will have his choice, especially because I think the White Sox job is more exciting than the Marlins job. I could be wrong on that. I'm fine to debate that, but I think that this is the most appealing job, and I think that it'll be fine. I don't know. It's tough to get excited about a manager. Like, yeah. I don't understand the pitchforks for Nevin. I talked about this on Friday. Like, it doesn't make sense that, like, this is the worst hire.
I don't think
they just lost 121 games.
Herb said he'd be very disappointed.
I'll be disappointed.
He could explain it to you.
Just because, like, you've searched all this way, and I know that he's had minor league experience and all that good stuff. And I did make the excuse like, oh, he looks like he's a jerk or old school and a guy like that. And I don't know. He just doesn't strike me as the guy that jibes with what Chris Getz is going with. And I might be wrong, and I might be judging him by his look. But we see who Will Venable has been working with. You talked about Joe Madden working with Phil Nevin. Joe, the report was he wasn't analytically enough for Theo and Jed in Chicago and was pushing back on those guys, especially after he won the World Series. And he was like, hey, man, let me do it my way. I'm 2-time, 3-time manager of the year. I got the World Series trophy up there. You guys can calm down.
I believe we've landed on them being Gio and Thed, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. And he was the bench boss for Phil Nevin during his Angels days. So that I just, put 2 and 2 together there. Venable has been around people who, have that background, and that's looking like where Chris Getz wants to go. Same thing with Albarnez. Grady can be molded into that guy, so I wouldn't be as mad as I'm trying to put all my eggs in my positivity basket into Chris Getz's future. And so I'm going to trust that he knows what he's doing. But if he goes to Nevin, I'm like, that doesn't look like what you're doing is consistent with what you're saying. I might be wrong, but that's just first blush of how I look at Phil Nevin.
Here's what I would say about coming at it from the Chris Getz angle, right? This hire is unlike a lot of hires across baseball, right? Like you're not hiring Phil Nevin or Will Venable or whoever to go win next year, right? I mean, Correct. This is a long-term thing. And so if they were to settle on a guy like Phil Nevin as that job, he would believe that he would be the guy for the long term.
Correct.
Not that it's not just like, oh, pick up the guy who's managed before and see what he can do with these guys, see if he can get these guys into a wild card spot or something like that. You're hiring a guy to be developmental. You're hiring a guy to take this team from absolute history level basement to what you envision as being the top of the mountain one day. And that's years down the road. So I think any hire that Chris Getz makes is going to be done with that in mind. And so the fan base, well, now obviously there's a lot of them who aren't too happy with Chris to begin with. Mm-hmm. But I think you can trust that Chris is picking somebody who aligns with that vision or who he believes can be a partner and go hand in hand with him along the way that he wants to go. Whether that's the way you want them to go or not is a different story, but it would be the way that Chris wants to go, which he has laid out as a very comprehensive long-term thing.
I mean, it's just very similar to Brandon Hyde, right? They're trying to find their own Brandon Hyde, and I'm not bringing this up because Brandon Hyde was Ricky Renteria's bench coach with the Cubs. Okay? It's just
it all comes back to Ricky.
Just coincidence. Hey, if they hired Ricky over Phil Nevin, I'd be pumped.
And I'm trying to think also that this new manager would want that security that Brandon Hyde got with the Warriors.
Yeah, right.
Like, this is a long-term thing, and I can't do a standard 3-year contract.
And I don't understand how people are saying, like, fire Brandon Hyde. They just won 2 100-game seasons.
And it's not his fault that they don't have enough pitching.
Yeah, it seems like the whole point. Was he hired or signed to a long-term contract, Hyde, though? I don't remember that certain detail.
I don't know if he was, but it seemed like they gave him all the rope in the world to just, like, be bad.
Right.
Well, because they were doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the one thing that's holding the Sox back a little bit. They can be bad next year, but I mean, with the new lottery rules, they won't have the same benefits of the Orioles who got Rutschley, and then they got
Rutschley.
You put them together.
You're doing a lot of portmanteaus today.
Adley Rutschman.
It's a long week.
I got you.
It's Monday, Lemon. Yeah, I think Nevin doesn't really feel like that, but also like a guy that's been cast aside before, like maybe he's fine with that sort of loyalty. And hey, we know Jerry's loyal.
Yeah, and I know one of my things that I wanted to get into for a manager is a guy that's had experience. And so Phil Nevin checks that box. He knows how to be a major league manager, even though it was a brief time of 1.5 years with the Angels. So he doesn't have to learn on the job. He knows, hey, these are the mistakes I made when I was an Anaheim Angel or Los Angeles Anaheim Angel. Now I can take what those lessons taught me and go full steam with the White Sox. That will be a check in the right direction for Phil Nevin, in my opinion. So he has that over most of these people, even though Venable has managed very few games in the majors.
Yeah, but he's been around so much. Like, at some point, you think he'd just be, kind of, what's it called? Like, through osmosis, Will Venable would learn how to be a major league manager. And what we've read about him with being the Rangers bench coach, I mean, he has a ton of planning responsibilities.
He's not the bench coach. He's the associate manager,
right.
and not that title should make everybody go, ooh, associate manager.
Yeah,
but I think
czar of pitching.
But right. But I think it alludes to responsibilities that maybe a regular bench coach doesn't have. And I'm sure there's 30 different bench coaches that do 30 different variations of that job. But to be an associate manager means that the team expects you to do a certain amount of planning and scheduling. I believe he ran spring training at one point. I mean, it's a level of experience that he might not have if he were just the bench coach. And I think it would be a point in his favor that you've got the Texas Rangers entrusting him with those responsibilities when the guy next to him is going to the Hall of Fame for winning 4 World Series.
Mm-hmm. Truly. Sarah is sharing your article in the chat. If you are looking to check out Vinny's articles up at allchgo.com, make sure you check out allchgo.com/intro. You could become a CHGO diehard today. You could read all of that exclusive written content. You can get a free shirt of your choice. There's plenty of discounts, and you get access to our CHGO Discord, our diehard lounge, where you get to chat White Sox with all different diehard fans alike. There's a Bears chat, so you can mourn in our sorrows after last night's loss. So go check that out at allchgo.com/intro. Vinny puts that all up in a nice, easy-to-read article. If this has been too sprawling of a 50-minute conversation that you didn't learn enough about these 4 people, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We appreciate you being here. Sarah did share the words fun bad in chat, and I don't know if there's a fun bad choice. Maybe Grady?
No.
Grady seems likable.
Yeah.
I could have fun with Grady.
I mean, I don't know if he'd be bad. I don't know. Like, Grady doesn't strike me as a bad manager necessarily. He's just a run-of-the-mill manager. And
which
fine.
is a ringing endorsement considering he hadn't even been a coach before last opening day.
Yeah, right. None of the moves that he made in his 2 months of being a manager, I was like, fine. Nothing was, oh, man, that stood out as something bad. It seemed like he was leaning on front office and people in his bench to make moves, and that was good.
He seemed to be liked, which is always good. All right, that's mainly going to do it for the CHGO White Sox show. Don't worry.
Sarah looking terrified.
We talked White Sox for 53 minutes. I know we got to do a 60-minute show. Hit the thumbs up button. I'll just keep saying that over and over again for 7 minutes. There was the heartbreaking loss that the Bears suffered last night. They moved the game to 325. There's the whole shebang. Daniels versus Williams, the top QBs in last year's draft class, and you just get a wet fart from the Bears in the first half and pretty much the third quarter. And then Caleb takes them on this comeback. You get 95 passing yards in the fourth quarter. You are able to come back and take a 3-point lead. You're able to convert the 2-point conversion and take a 3-point lead. So even the Commanders just can't, get down the field and kick a field goal. So they just, throw a Hail Mary and win the game and make it a lot easier on themselves.
Yes.
How heartbreaking did this feel, Herb?
It was so heartbreaking. I was just sitting at home, like, chilling. I was like, man, this has been a horrible, horrible game. But I was like, you know what happens? Good teams win games that you don't play your best at. And so when they got the lead with 25 seconds to go, I was like, hey, that's what good teams do. They overcome the badness of the first 3 quarters and get the job done eventually in the fourth. But you know what? While I believe that managers don't matter that much in wins and losses in baseball, head coaches matter a whole hell of a lot in the NFL because of preparation, because of discipline, because of calls, timeouts, challenges, all those things that go into being an NFL head coach. You need to have 100% focus on being the coach of the team, not the defensive play caller, just being the CEO of the bench. And Matt Eberflus absolutely wet the bed yesterday in that last drive. There's 25 seconds to go in the game. They have to drive the length of the field to at least get a field goal opportunity. They have no timeouts. And Matt Eberflus, in the penultimate play, he sits his guys back so the Washington Commanders can get into better position to throw the Hail Mary. They have no timeouts left. All you have to do is play some people in the back, play quarters, but also play your nickels and your linebackers underneath the routes on the sidelines. So make sure there's nothing going on the sidelines to get out. You want them to get in the ball in the middle of the field. Game's over. They can't get up to the ball enough. Game's over. But he played that poorly. And then you have Tyreek Stevenson celebrating before the game's over while the play is going on. And that part is coaching. Like, you can't have that player doing that because early in the game, he got a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which goes on to coaching also. And then the third thing about coaching is, what do they tell you on a Hail Mary as a defensive player, Sean?
I don't know. I played until the 6th grade, and
Do you know?
I was afraid of being hit.
The only thing that play reminded me of was playing 500 in the pool.
Yeah.
Mystery box.
Yeah.
And that guy got it.
I always hated when other people played with different rules for 500. Like, I was very, kind of milquetoast. Like, we did a mystery box, but it was just, 1 through 500. We weren't doing like grenades or, whatever. Bouncing betties. We weren't like getting cute with it. And then people were throwing out all these like different iterations. Is like, wow, you guys must be bored.
But what they do tell you is to knock the ball down, bat it down. Tyreek Stevens touches the ball, but it goes back to a wide open receiver for the Washington Commanders. They win the game. Game over. They wanted to put it to a White Sox like play. One football game in the NFL is equivalent to 10 MLB games. So losing 10 games in a row would be the equivalent. Luckily for you, the White Sox lost 10 games in a row 3 times this year. Actually, they lost 12 games and 14 games. History! And 21 games, which is the most in the American League history. So pick one. The 21 would be 2, losing 2 games in a row. So the 21-game losing streak is the equivalent of losing 1 game in the NFL. So stop crying, Bears fans. You're not White Sox fans. And if you are, man, it's been a tough life.
This will not be the 2008 Detroit Lions where the team goes 0-16. They have 1 games. And what I can say, at least watching the 2024 White Sox, is I think you would have to multiply the games played by 3 or 4 to even get the amount of White Sox blown leads in 2024. The White Sox had 56, including games eventually lost after having the lead. They had 56 blown leads. So every day that ended in Y, the White Sox were blowing a lead. So it felt very familiar.
Mark Burley.
A familiar haunt. What?
Mark Burley, 56.
Yes. Oh, there you go. I didn't know what you were talking about.
And history also.
I think of Mark Burley as a guy that not only, he could protect a lead. Even if he has 1 to 2 to 3 in the bullpen, he could still come out in game 3 and save a game. So I didn't understand, but, I get you now.
Okay. But, yeah, the Bears game, I didn't, my dog had to go out. It was time for him, at 6 o'clock, my dog was like, hey, it's time to go out. What are we doing? I'm like, Ziggy, can we wait? Bears game's still on. And literally, once that game ended, I was just in a daze, just sitting on my couch like, why do I watch this team? Why do I do this every week? And this is the 4th damn time where the Bears, under Matt Eberflus in the last year, have had a 90% chance to win the game in the 4th quarter and lost that game. The 4th damn time. I
mean, they literally were considering putting Marcus Mariota in to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Because Daniels is rib injury. And
yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is bat that ball down. Anyways, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. I'm going to say this very slowly to make sure we get to 60 minutes. Sarah, don't worry. That is Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer.
The people who listen at 1.7 speed are like, man, it's perfect.
That is Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. Thank you to Sarah Fichter for producing the show today. I'm Sean Anderson. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We have Bulls and Blackhawks pregames tonight. Goodbye.
y'all city like the mayor.